The show gradually returns to life in Salem away from Victor as the next phase of his demise begins. Days of Our Lives surprised me in a good way, giving me a fresh mystery to get lost in as they did, and handed me several inexcusable lines that must be fixed immediately. So let's start the week now. After that, first off, a remark from my column from last week in response to comments mentioning Maggie as Victor's second greatest love. How could I have forgotten Caroline after all? Although their romance was never depicted on television, Victor's life was largely centered around her family out of love for her. How could I have overlooked the letter Kayla discovered when Beau abducted her? Perhaps because it didn't quite feel like anything Victor would have written, sweet as it was. In any case, Caroline was Victor's Mickey in many respects. Maggie may have been the only woman he married who Victor loved that much. Back in Salem, though, the grieving this week waned a little and took on a somewhat different tone as people like EJ, Nicole, and Marlena remembered the troublemaker. But even so, I adored every aspect of it. Although he created a lot of trouble and confusion in Salem, he did make the city more interesting. Marlena, that's one way to phrase it. But well, it takes someone very special for Nicole to remember the man who shoved her casually out of a window with fondness. Person she attempted to murder too. And EJ's speculation about whether Stefano and Victor were tormenting one another forever was the ideal finishing touch. But there were no flashbacks between Stefano and Victor. Darn, we might yet get some. Triangle of despair. Johnny requires work. He requires activity and a goal. What does it matter? I asked myself when Nicole remarked that he was taking advantage of the remaining summer days. It's not like he will resume his studies or employment when the summer is finished. All he does is get caught up in love triangles. Speaking of which, I mentioned last week that I had some ideas about this, and I still do. Because it's far too convenient for me for Talia to explore her sexuality with Chanel. Talia and Chanel already performed that. Instead of pressuring Chanel and Talia, I'd want to see her with a lady who already had self-assurance and knew what she wanted. I can be forgiving enough for friendship, but after what Talia did, whether due to Colin's manipulation or not, I don't think I should try to be in a relationship. Mistakes during weddings. When Sarah lied about the baby, Sander responded as I anticipated. He seems to be in a state of mind where he'd like to be injured, even though there is a part of him that obviously doubts Sarah. I'm more proud of Sarah than Maggie said. So while Sarah is determined to have a doomed relationship with Rex, he is going to a doomed wedding with Chloe. I don't think for a second that she will tell him the truth during their cliffhanger conversation. On the other side, Eric's surprise response to EJ and Nicole's marriage made me roll my eyes. He was the one who was ready to wed Sloane right away. Wait, I just got an idea. Marlena's remark about weddings and funerals happening frequently. Are they going to pull a 4 weddings and a funeral on the audience? Tragic event, timed perfectly. Oh, Sloane's miscarriage came at the wrong time. That would be what puts a confession on hold solely in Salem. Days of Our Lives astonished me nonetheless. I genuinely believed that this was going to result in a baby swap narrative. Even though I would have been more than a little exhausted by that, I would have been okay, because there would have been a karmic element to it, despite the fact that it would have been a rerun of Sloane/Nicole and Nicole/Sami. But I'm also content to accept this change. In the end, I believe that Eric and Nicole can only be brought together and made to work through this. Eric loses 2 of the children he really wants. But when all else fails, Nicole miraculously provides him with the family he has always desired, and they are able to live happily ever after. But if those 2 hadn't been so arbitrarily butchered in the first place, that wouldn't be necessary. I'm not sure. I realize that soap opera relationships go through ups and downs, but Eric and Nicole seem like a totally other animal. Despite how long they've waited and how many times they've been put together, they never really had a chance to convince us that they are anything other than ineffective. I don't know if that is reversible, but maybe it is. Backing us up this week, I couldn't help but note how many cringe-worthy statements completely contradict the characters sitting them. Like Eric, who was searching for alcohol after arguing with Sean and declaring that he would kill for a drink. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel, Daily Bulletin News, and stay with us.